an empty cup I have signed in the day. All my destinations will accept the one that's me. That's why I can breathe. Circles they grow and they swallow people whole. After lives they say goodnight to wives they'll never know. A mind full of questions and a teacher in my soul. So it goes. Don't come closer or I'll have to go. Holding me like gravity, our places that cold. If ever there was someone to keep me at home, would it be you? Everyone I come across in cages they bought. They think of me and my wandering, but I know what they thought. Got my indignation, but I'm pure in all my thoughts. I'm alive. Wind in my hair, I feel part of everywhere. Underneath my beard is a road of self-care. Late at night I hear the trees, they're singing with the dead over here. Leave it to me as I find a way to be. Consider me a satellite forever orbiting. I knew all the rules, but the rules did not know me. Guaranteed.
So I'm determined to get the news out. And last night I had quite bizarre events that involved, in the dead of night, a howling cat outside, as if it had been stabbed or something. I could find no evidence of that, but this morning, quite sadly, it looks as if one of my neighbours has had a severe illness. The ambulance was there for all of the morning, and the police were there for several hours beyond that. The man lives alone, so I don't dare go across and talk. But I do not understand the pussycat mythology, but I do believe now more and more in the occult. There was a severe cold chill came over the whole of my bedroom at the moment that I heard that chilling noise. So if any of my followers or listeners are intimately intertwined with the occult, please give me a call and explain it to me. I just intend to keep telling the truth about how the world gets persecuted, even by its religious figureheads. I've found in the last few minutes on that wee computer there that Justin Welby is interlocked to the Vardy dynasty that run the massive car chain out of Newcastle, County Durham, and all of the places that I used to inhabit as an academic when we lived in Hexham. And the Vardys now are, in inverted commas, sponsoring Scottish rugby like the blood-sucking Princess Anne. Okay, so occultists, please get in touch and explain to me what is happening by dead of night. I just keep intending to explain to you all what has happened to society's funding, and I was in the process of telling you about Pope Gregory IX, who had a thing about black cats being evil, and was in a position in this set of tabs to start culling the black cats because he thought that they were a risk to the PISO mythology that leads to the creation of false Christianity. And the PISO mythology is driven by the purr words, the pussy words, and all of the jokes that I've shared with you already. Today I've been looking at Abelard Reuchlin's PDFs, and every time you go there you realise that the numbers that are in the historical transcripts are just the PISO codes, and I mistakenly told you that 300 was the code number for Jesus Christ. That is actually the code number for the Christian cross. and 600 is the code number for Jesus Christ. The number 60 is the code for Calpurnius Arius, Calpurnius Piso himself, the man in the Min witchcraft jokes. Yeah, so the whole of the mysterious past of our world history involves the occults. It involves the use of shamanic practices and the occult systems that are so prevalent even across in the Caribbean. Yeah, and we've seen in the Devil's Advocate movie the evidence that you can silence people in the law courts by understanding how to stick the needle into the tongue that you have prepared for that in advance, and to silence the defense advocates in the courtroom. That's in the Devil's Advocate movie as usual. A lot of the truths about how the world is run and fails to be run as a democracy now, and is run as a profiteering exercise enforced entirely by brutality and munition scams everywhere. But let's get back to religion, and there's the list of evidence that we were finding. When Blackadder laugh at something, you know that it is something really major and really grave. Yeah. So the episode they made on Captain Cook was about Gregory IX, and I've told you already about the Zulu banks in London and the family that was involved in running those banks. That was the period when Benedict XV was being elected as the new Pope for World War I, and he became an intimate part of the invitation to Pope Pius XII, the Nazi Pope, to take over just in time for World War II. And the man in the middle, as it were, was the person who was the papal nuncio, the head of the selection panel, and he was the son of the Spanish ambassador in London. He was born in Bournemouth and brought up in Bournemouth, and raised in the embassy in London when Spain was in that strictly neutral position. And he gets involved in all sorts of disputes involving, his name had Mary in the middle, but there's so many names around it that it is almost impossible to follow the track. Some of them are Mary. Yeah, many of them are jokes about the religious figureheads, and I've shown you that in video number 2 on the papacy and the fraud. So let's now go to the witch burning tab and see what I've got there, because I want to finish this quickly. I now want to tell you more and more and more about the frauds right at the top of society, involving the Rothschilds, involving their intermarriages, and I found many more links to Lothian Road. And I thought initially that may be why the police presence were here this morning, but sadly it's about my neighbour. Okay, and that man's had a serious cancer for several months, and so witch burning. Gregory IX, so he's famous for killing black cats, for sparking the bubonic plague, and I think that we're right into his tab now, and that is just what we found in the search engines, and that is where my batteries ran out the last time. Pope Innocent VIII is also involved, and reformations, science and witch hunts, and the end of slavery. His family was of Greek origin but have been long settled at Genoa and Naples. Do you get it? God, Noah and Naples is where the Pisos did all of the writing. I'm going to make the next video on the writings of the Pisos and the numerical code, and I'm going to show you as I read it to you, because I believe that Abelard Reuchlin has been taken down by the system. He's probably died of old age if he has not been taken down by the system, but the last time I heard of him that was in the video that they made way back in the early 90s, and that's the place where the PDFs were sold, but they've been taken over now in that location at that zip code in America, in Washington on the west coast. Yeah, they have been replaced by T-Mobile, which is a vicious joke about the T being the Christian cross, because all of Abelard Reuchlin's insightful and inspiring scholarly work is really inspiring, and without that information you cannot really be informed about how big the religious fraud actually is. Yeah, but it is really efficient when it comes to genocide, and I'm going to show you that now. Some of this stuff happens by accident because the gods in the skies are aware of how the people are being treated, and how all of those religious wars are engineered to cull the people, and all of that will come through when I read you huge chunks of Abelard Reuchlin's PDFs. Okay, if I get taken down because of that, then it's only because I'm releasing what he tried to release over the whole of his lifespan. Yeah, he was a very, very academic and intellectual guy, and all of that comes through in his videos. If you look it up on YouTube, Abelard Reuchlin and the faking of the New Testament and the Piso family, the Piso fraud, those search terms will get you into it. If you need to find it on my website, go to Faking the New Testament, and there's a whole series of pages, and some of the videos are made on the merry characters and the election of the popes for World War I and World War II by the corrupted and twisted people who are prepared to kill their less ruthless colleagues to get them out of the way, so that the Pope can kill as many human beings across the globe as they possibly can. It is really, really vicious, and the Ignatius stuff is all just made up, and all of that is explained by Abelard Reuchlin in those PDFs. Okay. And many of the emperors get topped. The Piso family themselves get topped and suppressed for a time. Then they go and fight in Cappadocia, or way out there in the Hungarian region, where genocides have been committed for several centuries following on from that, just to cover up the crimes of the launch of Christianity. It is massive and it's perpetual, but they knew it would come to an end, and they were vain enough to write themselves into the story and to let us know what the code is and what the Pythagorean numbering systems are. There are actually 3 or 4 of them, and they all run in parallel, which makes it ever so complex for a simple guy like me. I was good at mathematics when I studied it closely at secondary school in the early years. I found no need for it in the rest of my life, and I slightly regret that I neglected continuing my studies on those themes, because they're ever so useful now. But I think I could put it over in plain English in a 1-hour video, and I'll try and do that tomorrow morning if they let me sleep through the night without me having some of those turbulent episodes again. I just turned over and ignored the noises, but it was quite bizarre, and there was a chilling, shuddering feeling went through the whole of my body after I heard that noise. I now believe firmly in the occult. I don't understand very much of it, but I understand as an innocent man and an outspoken activist that that is what keeps me relatively safe. Yeah, and Jim across the road would not sign my petition. He wanted my sympathy on his cancer, and I gave him it. He would not sign the petition. Yeah, all I'm asking is for people to confirm the truth about what has happened to our society, which is why I played that music on understanding the rules and living your life with wives that you don't know. Yeah, okay, so let's get on with the evil, evil story of world history, and that's why Gregory IX was brought into it by the Time Team. He's the man that killed the cats, sparked the bubonic plague, and remember, we had 3 popes, one in Czechoslovakia, which is the Bohemian Rhapsody music, because that was where they had immunity from the plague, presumably because there were good people there. They had another pope in France, and that is in the, there's a lot of music associated with that place, Avignon. There was a papacy based in France, in the south of France, in the town or city of Avignon, and the third pope, of course, was in the Roman, hub. And we've talked a lot about Ostia and all of the jokes. When you realise that it comes into Scottish history, and it comes into a place where we have a fault line. Now, I learned this today. The fault line in Scotland runs between Dundee on the east coast and the massive Firth of Tay to Oban on the west coast, where we have a legendary turbulent part of the ocean between the Isle of Mull and the mainland. And Hitler visited that region during the war and after the war was over. And in that region we saw the royal yacht parked up just next to the massive, I forget what you call it when you have a whirlpool that is in the ocean between Mull and the outer isles. Okay, and all on those outer isles in places like Iona, what you have are warlords and brutal family members led by mercenaries who are trading behind that religious movement, and the swords that they carry all just look like icons for the Christian cross. Okay, so let's get on to a little bit on witch burning and some of the modern day stories that are launched to try and cover up the mighty PISO saga, which has become the mighty PISO joke. I've just been listening to Prince Charles talking about the career of the chief rabbi in London. Now, the chief rabbi is another person who I cannot yet find on company check. Justin Welby is a cinch. Yeah, he was a honorary professor at Durham University like me. He's a friend of Professor Murray in the theology department, and he is a massive criminal. Yeah, and they have the gall to slot him into the House of Lords. Yeah, and he's got models of the Elgin marbles in the church appended to his family home in County Durham. That's the Elgin marbles that were taken from other people's democracies that were the earliest civilization. Yeah. Okay, right then, witch burning. I'm not sure what are on these tabs, but I need to get this done and to get on with the more serious modern day frauds involving little bastards like Welby. That's the Archbishop of Canterbury. He interlocks to the Vardys, but to thousands of others. Yeah, he's a oil magnate, and he's got 6 or 7 different directorial IDs that I found easily in the last 10 minutes. Okay, so witch burning. Let's scan to the top and see what we've got here and whether I highlighted any of that. So this is why the Blackadder team laugh at the concept of Pope Gregory IX. Okay, it doesn't look as if I've had time to highlight much of it, but there are as you see from what I found in the search engines in that tab above on Gregory IX, there's loads of stuff. This series of pages may give access to much of the occult witchcraft story, but they deny in the stories that witches can fly even when psychedelic drugs are used, and the Pamplona rituals where they allow the bulls to stampede through the cities in the Hispanic countries of Spain and Portugal. Yeah, the power and the brutality that are appended to Christian execution is feared by all, and that is now known as peer pressure or bonfire night. Yeah, and the story about Bonfire Night is that that is commemorating the attempts of revolutionaries to actually bring down the monarchies. The whole of the ordinary people base are conscripts, they are armies, they are press gang victims, and all of the stuff that happens to the ordinary pagans is just a massive cull over many centuries. So it's taken 2,000 years to get Christianity into the really unstable place that it is now, because of activists like me who understand entirely that the UN is there to run the world strictly for profit, not for moral reasons or for peace-loving reasons, strictly for profit and brutality against always the ordinary and faithful and honest people. And the Lucis trusts and all of those Lucy programs that they make on the telly, yeah, all of it is a vicious joke. The Jainite movement is the same, and all of the Thelema movements. That's why they put in the Likely Lads comedies Thelma. Yeah, it's all part of the same joke. All of the names that we talked about, even the harlot name, yeah, and Gregory. Now that I realise that Pope Gregory was a villain, I'm really nervous about Greg Hallett, because he understood all of the to-wit-to-woo jokes, all of the red, white and blue jokes, and he was a strong follower of the fear-mongering on the Tesla jokes, and I explained some of that in the earlier videos. Yeah, and the links of that to the George Bush family is no accident. Okay, so the witch burning and Holocaust, this is written by a pagan tea house. Yeah, even that, you know, the tea joke, that's the golf joke, which is the Christianity cross joke. So you have to be very careful about everything you learn. And when you learn the numbering code, you see that when I reel off the statistics on the dead American Indians, that it is just a joke. Like the Arthurian legends and the Pendragon jokes, all of them are explained in that, I think it's a 25-page PDF by Abelard Reuchlin. Look it up on the internet. I will post it on the YouTube linkage for this video. It is really complex, but when you read individual sentences and the simplicity of the numbering code, when it is decoded and just expressed as a joke, it is sickening but really quite easy to understand. But I need, because I got so many concussions at the hands of the English rugby players, I need to go back to it again and again and again. And I was still awake at 2:30 last night when that cat incident and the chilly wind swept right through my bedroom. It was really quite spooky, but I have faith in the real gods. I don't know who they are or how many there are, and I hope that they will continue to shield me and let the people that run our world this way know that they are going to be exposed as genocidal bastards. Okay, all of them are toffee-nosed twits. Right, so the Lucis UN religious offshoots, let me just take you to that, because you can go to the Bibliothèque website. Is really fascinating. That is where I found out about the mythologies and a lot of the stuff on Princess Anne and her sexual deprivations and having sex with two black men at the same time. A lot of the stuff on the tenants and the people who live in the tax havens are written about there, and a lot of the stuff about the conspiracy theories about Mars invaders and all of the people who are going to come and brutalise our Earth from outer space like the Martians did in the H.G. Wells stories. All of it is just the twisting of science fiction into more and more output from these guys. I keep taking you here, but that's what it's all about. Every generation, and when you read about it, they wonder in the writings of Shakespeare who the author actually was, but in the writings of the Pisos, nobody ever asks that question, because they write themselves so skillfully into it that the sheeples have no idea. But when they make predictions, yeah, as prophets in the Bible, they're able to make all of them come true, to raise the dead, yeah, the Lazarus jokes, all of that, and the raising from the dead of Jesus himself. I cannot share with you the outcomes of my turning the water to wine joke, but you can see quite clearly that I can no longer get any more wine from that bottle, okay, and that the water is no longer there. Interpret that how you like. I am not a miracle worker, I am just an observer of everything that happens around me, and it is tragic that none of the parents are prepared to make a stand to protect their children. But thank you to the religious clerics who have come forward and to talk to me openly now on the streets, and I can see the respect, and it is mutual. And also to the ordinary citizens, yeah, it is really good that you understand that we are being brutalized by this basal system, and all of what Prince Charles says to the undetectable rabbi in the profiteering sector thus far. Yeah, he was on my communication lists for several years since 2010. Because of that burden of all of that knowledge, he's been forced to resign. He will be at the trough somewhere, and I will find him soon. But when you're a champion for the Hebrew nations, it's ever so difficult to find those things in English, okay? And everybody gets the right to change their names, like Pele and Eusebio, yeah, and Benedict XV and Benedict XVI is picked for obvious reasons that these guys entirely understand, which is why they made that episode and called it Captain Cook. Right then, Lucius, witch burning. So the witch's story, it's very difficult to get truths and statistics because it is massive. It occurs on every continent, and further up I showed you how in Paganonia, where the pagans lived in the spine of Italy, that was right next door to L'Aquila, which means the eagle, and L'Aquila is the most earthquake prone place in Italy. The most earthquake prone place in Britain is a place called, it begins with a C, and it's just to the west of Perth. So you're getting across the central belt of the country, and that is the Scottish Highland fault line, okay, and it runs from Oban to Dundee, and slightly north of that, and all the way across. It's known as the shaky place, and there have been, I think it was 7,000 minor quakes in that region. And the first one was in 79 AD when Vesuvius erupted, okay, and the Piso output was taken into Britain, and the battle that was fought there was, they are unsure about the location of the battle, but the statistics are just the Piso numbering code, okay. I'll make the video on that after I've introduced you to that numbering code and the writings and explanations of Abelard Reuchlin and his colleagues in Washington on the west coast of America. Okay, so on to the more modern day diversions from the horrible truths that are the total owning of the world by that Piso family. And the first, what happened in 79 AD was that they actually released not our Marcus, because that was their template and they rejected that, and they launched Mark in the year 79 AD, and that sparked earthquakes all around the world. yeah, because it was to become the global religious base. So what have we got here? Okay, so this is all comes from the bibliothèque site, and I'll show you that at the bottom. But the bibliothèque site is an amazing set of bullshit on magic and even Dracula myths, robotics, spacemen, David Icke stuff, and Tesla, humans being able to control weather patterns. They concede they die young, and they don't notice they die in their iconic 3, 6 or 9 occult number years. Yeah, so when you get the years that they die, it almost certainly it is on some of their iconic numbers that they believe are the magic numbers that have been launched by people like Weishaupt, the German, and have been the basis for the Freemasonic movement for the whole of its ancient existence. All of the pyramid icons, all of the iconic crowns that you see, all of it makes the ordinary people the slaves to the world elites, and the martyrs in the religious wars, and the victims as the war dead, yeah, in the shallow graves, in the massive global conflicts, and those never end. When you look at the history and where the quakes occur, you've got genocides all over the globe for oil wealth, diamonds wealth, narcotics wealth, or simply for the land grabs and the power base. Every country, every continent, there is no escape from it now, and the ownership of the world's issuance of money is now globalized. There is nothing left to steal in that respect. Okay, so that gives them the power to kill and terrorize, and what you've got is the control of the masses, literally. That's the control of the Church of Rome. That was the template. And when the Philippines had those massive floods last year, what you've got is the world's most mission prone location. All the denominations in Christianity are crammed into that place, and the Jehovah's locally has sent charming young people to work on their mission on that island. And I talked to their dad just recently. They're really decent folk, but they do not realise the abuses, and they talk about Jehovah all of the time, and Jehovah is part of the jokes that I've found this afternoon when I'm investigating the Scottish issues and the launch of places like the River Yarrow, yeah, near Selkirk, near the Duke of Buccleuch's power base. Yeah, the Ya name comes into all of the jokes all over Freemasonic Scotland, and the stuff that comes out of that fault line takes you into the places that I used to love as a fisherman, and we used to love as tourists in Scotland. That's Strathearn, right in the epicentre for the quake prone region, where Andy Murray and the Dunblane School is part of the reason for all of the false news that we get. Okay, the Lucifer link here also demonises the Bailey concept. So the Bailey concept is the Bailey story about George Bailey and allowing the innocent innocent poor people to get affordable homes in the It's a Wonderful Life movie. Okay, so here we've got what was launched by the PISOs themselves, the stories about Lucius and Lucifer, and all of that was written into the last few chapters that they contributed when there was a massive fallout amongst the family. Because what the later PISO did was to accuse his dad, yeah, the really big powerful Calpurnius PISO, yeah, who's known as Josephus in world history, and a lot of the writings that I learned about and that are covered, there are 44 citations to Tacitus, and you know the expression, the tacit information was given. That is another one of the elite writers, and it's him that covers the Scottish agendas and gives all of those code numbers. For them it's a 2,000-year-old joke, and the emperor at that time was either the Antonine emperor, or it was possibly, I forget the name, so the Antonine wall and the is it the Augustine wall? There's the Roman wall, which is Hadrian's wall, and the Antonine wall. I'm pretty certain it was the Antonine linkage, and that takes you right through that earthquake prone zone yeah, from east to west, and it takes you also through Naismith country yeah, all of it leads to loyalty and clan linkages that tie the ordinary people into globalized corruption for the whole of world history. Okay, so if you did not realize that the Lucy woman who's on the telly and the woman who is Thelma are jokes about the Lucis movement and the Lucifer Trust, yeah, then you need to realize that now. There's Alice Bailey, the founder of the Lucis Trust World. I'm sorry, I've got very small typeface there. And Lucifer Rising, Lucifer Trust Allocation in New Worldwide Chart Organization. See image of what you get when you try to open this chart below. So I tried to open it the other day and I just got nothing doing, but yet this is an official secret for us now, because what you are doing is embarrassing us. Yeah, that's the UN leaders, all of whom are banking magnates. So that's the Sutherlands, who are heads of the RBS, that is the McKillops, and that is the guy with the stuck out lower lip who was in charge of the gun license to the killer at the Dunblane school, gets to be the head of the UN. I forget what his name is. Right then, let me see if I can open this up and expand it a wee bit for you. But you can see that it is just a disclaimer that we will not let you open this site that we're openly letting the people see, because they fear us and they think that what we're going to tell them is going to make them cluster together like frightened sheep. Yeah, and we're going to spook them with that, and we're going to send them to their deaths in a totally unjustified conflict because they think that someone else is behaving demonically. That's usually Islam as things stand. So I've really screwed up there. So you can see that that is the foundation, and it's the see image Lucis Trust Allocation in New World Order Worldwide Chart Organization. So they will not show us the chart, and what we've got is the Internet Explorer that you cannot open that site. Yeah, and let's just keep going down. New Age religion brought to us. I'm going to shrink it again so you can see the subtitles that they're listing here. And this is the Bibliotech website is absolutely massive. Okay, Lucis Trust, UN tool for one world religion. Lucis Trust, Satanism and the New World Order. Okay, I don't know whether or not there is a Satan. I don't know how many gods there are. Yeah, but there are many, many evil and greedy people on our, and there are many, many killers on our world, and all of it gives them a massive power base, which is NATO and the UN armies. Okay, the Tibetan master, and I've shown you the Tibetan embedding even in the American Indian culls and all of the wordplay that they engage in. They embed the Jewish angels into the Christianity stories, into the Christian armies, and that becomes Raphael, who's the Jewish angel. I forget whether he's upstairs or downstairs, yeah, or on one of the four corners of the Jewish earth map, but Raphael becomes the RAF, and all of it is ever so funny, even for the field marshals. And it's really funny if you're a field marshal like Lord Guthrie of Dundee on the fault line, because he is on the board of the NM Rothschild Bank for the whole of his period as a field marshal, and he's allowed to brutalise the Balkans for a laugh and for massive amounts of undisclosed profits. Okay, and you've got Diabolo stuff, El Maestro Tibetano, Bushi Shambhala, and I told you the other day about the Satanism and the links of the words. I can't remember what the wordplay was with Satan and saint. Yeah, it's the same. You just shuffle them around and you've got the Antichrist. And remember that there cannot be an Antichrist because there never was a Christ. But I cannot tell you how the cats fit into the story, other than they are a joke about the PISO involvement and the word per in the middle of the Calpurnius joke and the Cybele joke about the panthers. And I realise now that even the Pearsons are part of the joke, but I can only explain that to you when I've got the PDF and the numbering system beside me and open, so I can explain it logically and rationally, like Abelard Reichland does when he tells the story before he was killed by the Christians, like all of the pagans and all of the witches. Right then, cults and mind control. You've got to remember that every story I've told you in the last 6 weeks involves secret societies, universities that have got intel organisations springing out of them into Russia and China and distant continents, so that they can have mind control. They can have first access to all of the information from all of the innocents across our globe, and that is called politics. You don't need to declare your interests. Yeah, we've shown you that in the videos I've made on the new cabinet members even. Okay, I'm going to up the pressure on the modern day profiteers in the next few days until it becomes unsustainable from them. There is nothing now honest in any of the Scottish papers, and the news that they are releasing is so trivial, it's incredible. The journalists can have no shame. Okay? Right then. So there's a whole, if you go to the bibliothèque index, which we've got on the next tab, it will take you hours to go through it, and what you've got is a whole series of Martian scare stories and lizards coming from outer space to invade our really decent and peace-loving nations. Yeah, as if NATO had not already done that. Okay, there are hundreds and hundreds of those bullshit stories, which is why H.G. Wells gets put in the War Office. Yeah, and that's why people like the French colleagues that I have on Facebook and on Skype dedicate the whole of their lives living in a commune, but ignoring the sins of Miss Lagarde at the IMF in Washington, but scaring the shit out of everybody about chemtrails. Yet the gods can create the universe, the gods can look after minor pollution incidents like that, but when you blow up Chernobyl as a deliberate policy like Gerard Schroeder did, so you can launch a new money stream which is known as Gazprom, then the gods will take a hand eventually. Yeah, and the Gazprom project has never properly been completed because everybody now knows how big a scam it is. Miss Timoshenko has been released, the board details have been released. There are 44 subsidiaries of that company to the west of fucking Amsterdam, and they dare not take it any further. Yeah? In the meantime, Ukraine freezes, and the people of Ukraine are threatened with another war and a great conflict, because that's where the Rothschilds came from in the first place. Don Juan's teachings, yeah, classicisms, channeling UFOs and the positive negative realms beyond this world. So it's the spacemen what are doing it to us, not George Bush and his family or Tony Blair. Christ, the Templars and sex magic, Aleister Crowley, my obsession. Okay, so you get loads of publications about what happens in the little grove and the child murders and all of the beastly things that you do, but no one is prepared to confront the financial crimes of the central bank in every country, which means that only the perpetrators of these plots get rewarded for anything that comes out of democracy. None of democracy's activities now are funded, and thank you to the former school teachers who talk to me. They are really upstanding, and they know now that I'm working for them and their families. The schools get no support, the nurses, the healthcare system gets no support. All of the propaganda that is printed in the papers is just a cover for my explicit exposures of what is happening to the issuance of money on every country on the globe. Okay? And Howard Phillips, Lam, les entidades interdimensionales, yeah, control del mundo, yeah, the same Spanish that was coming out of the embassy when the man was raised in England to pick Pope Pius XII, the Nazi Pope in World War II, and to elect the first Pope in World War I, who was Benedict XV, and the direct cover for Benedict XVI, who's the Hitler Youth man, who defecated on all of his worshippers and defected into the elite hotel because people are onto him. And within weeks of Pope Francis taking off office as the first of the brutal Jesuit movement, which is explained entirely in Abelard Reuchlin's PDFs, he was immediately limping, and he was really lucky. And I discovered at the weekend that even although the Church of Scotland is coming on side, or at least some of them are, yeah, they've got a massive lightning conductor on what is a massive steeple, yeah. And what occurred to me today for the first time was that the steeple story comes into some of the sporting frauds, but I've forgotten it again. Anyway, right then, so this is the royal science, okay, the mythology behind the UFOs, the golden triangle, the disappearing UFOs that crash south of the Caribbean, where we had the oil spill and some token prosecutions of those dirty oil men who made a mess of the local ecology for a while. Yeah, and that then becomes Tony Blair's business partner in the oil in Kurdistan, where the emperor or the president killed his brother to be the emperor still. And all of that is the Air Force One movie, totally twisted for control del mundo, and they've got it now. They will not give it up easily. But thank you to the gods for your help and for letting me know when I'm telling the truth, and for the sun god who gets laughed at relentlessly in everybody's national anthems. Right then, so my wife's name's Valerie. The biggest earthquake before April the 1st 2014, that's the Avril de Poisson, yeah, the day that we have the April Fool. In France it's the Poisson d'Avril Day. That's the fish joke, the penis joke, the little fishes, the Matanza joke that I told you about yesterday. The Val d'Or project is the fields of gold, okay. So Valdivia was the biggest earthquake before that. That occurred in 2014. And it was, sorry, the biggest one, the Valdivia earthquake, was way back in the 1960s, just before Chile was due to host the soccer tournament that is the World Cup. Okay, and they had to build new stadia because the stadia that were to be used were destroyed by that. Yeah, and that was when Pinochet came back from his training in Bolivia. So this is still on these massive bibliothèque websites. You can spend a lot of time on there, but I would not get too worked up about it. Before you need to understand the PISO fraud. When you understand that, you've got the whole ownership of the whole world sussed. Okay, take my word for it. I'm an intelligent man. I'm forgetful sometimes, but each time you read it, it becomes more and more impressive. The world is run as a brutal joke for all of its time. Okay, so this is the reference to the texts that have ripped people apart. This is the writings of the Aryan movements in Northern Europe, the return to the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, return to the priory of Sion, and you've got the links to that. Okay, they would not let me open this. If the information gets to me, it gets to the whole world, and they do not like that. Okay, so here we've got another, you cannot be allowed into this website, an error occurred, please try again later, learn more. Okay, all of it. They are very insecure as this bullshit gets stacked up higher and higher since my return from New Zealand. Okay, so the protocols of Zion are what drove Hitler to war, allegedly. Yeah, what drove Hitler to war was the massive economic abuse of his country and the pressure that was put on his country by the G8 members in the other countries. Yeah, Germany's now in the G8, but what happened to them was that they were demonized. All of their corporations did the same thing as the corporations in America did. They defaulted on the citizens, they created hyperinflation in those countries, same in Japan. The poor become poorer and poorer and everybody gets angry. Yeah, and Hitler, when he stands in the podium in New Brunswick, yeah, that's not New Brunswick where Beaverbrook came from, and ranted from the podium as well. Yeah, but that is why the world is driven to war, and the universities on all sides participate in that, because that's where the intellectuals are. They write the speeches. I was quite impressed by Prince Charles's speeches until he laughed about Arsenal Football Club. This is the chief rabbi, and Wrexham, yeah, he's the Prince of Wales. They think with a trivial reference to football clubs that are associated with Zionism, like Tottenham Hotspur or the Arsenal linkages, yeah, and all of that they think is enough to cover their sins. It is not. Listen in tomorrow, you'll learn about Justin Welby and how the leader of the Church of England is a major thief. Right then, so the Val d'Or thing, I cannot explain that because they would not let me open it. The Sacred Heart symbol, let me see what it says at the top because I've not had time to highlight this. The heron. So the heron is an icon. The Flight of the Heron is a movie and a novel about the Cameron dynasty and the Cameron tribe clans up in Scotland. They're the people that use the white feather for cowardice, if you did not know that. Okay, and all across the world the herons and the Perons are a joke. Yeah, they're the people that are greedy, that suck the life out of all of the river valleys, yeah, and render this rare species extinct. That's the role of the Tweed Commission, is yeah, is to kill fish when people are not allowed to kill fish for preservation reasons, and they sack innocent gillies if they're prepared to stand up to them. That's Lord Sanderson of Bowden. Yeah, the Heron movies and all of the Otir movies take you into the river valleys in Iraq, which is actually Armageddon, and that is the Reed joke about the birthplace of Moses. And Moses then becomes the chief statistician. Klaus Moser runs the most expensive Jewish schools and is 90 something, but still in the House of Lords with massive profiteering interests, openly registered in the House of Lords. Right then, so this is covering the Tsars in Russia, the Protocols of Zion. I don't know where we get to the Val d'Or bit, but I've not had time to highlight any of that. And it's all about ancient history, King David, King of the Jews, and the real Pope acting as the patriarch of an international church. Yeah, this is the Holy Lands that are brutalized all of the time, right up into the present day. Thus, Val d'Or means, furthermore, there was during this period in time a secret society with stated goals very similar to those enumerated in the Protocols of Zion, and they were in fact apparently an auxiliary order of the Priory of Zion. They were called the Heron du Val d'Or, which Holy Blood, Holy Grail notes contains an anagram of the place Orval, a location that frequently crops up throughout this mystery. Notably, the word Orval contains the syllables which in French mean or, which is gold, and valley, which is val. Isn't that insightful? Okay, and I've just explained to you that Satan is saint. Santa in Spanish. Satan and Santa. And Santa is the Klaus Moser, Santa Claus Moses joke. Ever so clever. And the PISO bits in these modernist stories, yeah, on the bibliothèque site are all trivial cover-ups for the massive master plan that was launched by Arius Piso, Calpurnius Piso, and Justus Piso, and the youngsters. I forget what the name of the one was who demonized his dad in the last chapter of the Christian Bible, which is Revelations, which is the name I have chosen for my website, because I know the gods know about the writings and they are going to bring it down, but a lot of it will be a joke about the Piso jokes and their capacity to undermine that and to stop the tyrants in their tracks whenever they want to. Yeah, they're ever so nervous now. Their mystic teachings contained, according to Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Yeah, the Grail. These are just jokes about vampires and grails. Yeah, the Grail is the goblin. Yeah, the goblet that is used in all of these mythologies to drink the wine that Jesus made from water. Okay, all of it is a stitch up, and all they need to do is to inspire you with the writings and prophets that come true, prophecies that come true, because they wrote it and they're able to make it look as if everything came true. Yeah, I did not turn my water into wine. The bottle is still unopened. Yeah, it is a massive belly laugh against the world's innocence, but it controls the masses for all of that time. Okay, I'm going to take you now to the list of popes because it's fascinating. I'll take you to the bottom first, which I think we're already at there, because they've gotten into a total tiz here. Yeah, Ratsinger was prematurely booted out of office because it's quite obvious that he's a fascist. Okay, so we can return to the popes and the Malachi prophecies, or we can return to the dark history of the Vatican. Okay, But what we've got is a long list of popes here, which takes us back to Gregory IX and his predecessors, and it takes us right up to Ratsinger, almost. Yeah, but they're stuck now, because doomsday is with us. And the other thing that I should have shown you about Gregory IX is that, oh, here's Gregory IX's Wikipedia profile. It's really interesting, because he prophesied that the Jews needed to be slaves. Yeah, he subordinated the Jews to the slavery role until Judgment Day comes. Yeah, that's the end of the world is nigh. Okay, so let's go there now and have a look, because what's happened is that Pope Francis has been inserted. Ratzinger's been chased out because everybody's on to now who Benedict XV was. Yeah, and he's Benedict XVI, and everybody knows that they're financial criminals supported and advised by the Rothschilds, and that is the Kalman Rothschild story that I keep telling you about. Okay, so let's go to Gregory IX and see the whole story about the black cats and stuff and see what a stuff up it actually is. And the writings of Essen, which is actually portrayed as not being Essen in Germany, but the writings of Essen in the Holy Lands, the whole of it becomes twisted, because Essen is the epicenter for the corrupted hotel chains that are being asset stripped at the moment, even in my hometown. And Essen is also the massive scenes for the bombing, that's Cologne in modern day parlance, massive bombing campaigns by Raphael the Jewish angel and the field marshals and profiteers that are on the same side as Hitler's friends. That's the Connies, the rabbits, the bunnies, yeah, the bunny girl jokes. All of it is absolutely vicious. So there's Gregory with the beehive on his bonnet. Okay, and I don't know if we got round to highlighting any of this. So that's so Blackadder make a joke about World War I and its terminal genocides. Okay, and they mention in that episode there Captain Cook 2 times, this Pope who lived between, who was in the papacy between the 19th of March 1227 to 22nd of August 1241. Now those numbers 22, yeah, even the woman Taylor Swift sings songs about 22. The numbers are the telling indictment about the PISO joke. They knew it would come out. They are egotists. They knew that people like Abelard Reuchlin and me would come along, and they would become legends for controlling the world for the whole of that 2,000 years. We have no civilization for all of that period. Within a fortnight we could have it now. If you got a little bit more active and you told your MPs and your local parish church that the game is up. The vicars at the local parish church on Sunday, they were given 24 hours to prepare their defence. They just conceded that they had no defence. They're not prepared to take the risks anymore, and there was nothing outlandishly claimed now. And thank you to all of the parishioners who understand what I'm trying to do. Even the priests understand it, and thank you for not bringing that gun in the tea towel. All of that is outmoded, and there is no need to cover up the sins of the past. We are decent now. Created Cardinal by Innocent III, December 1198. Okay, and previous post, Cardinal Deacon of Ostia. Okay, he's the Bishop of Ostia. That's where the Roman navies are incompetent and are fearful of the Phoenician navies, and are fearful of the Carthaginian navies, and are fearful in the end of the British Navy. That's the ones that rule the waves. and accuse their enemies of knavish tricks. Okay, and all of those names are allowed to be changed 3 or 4 times in one person's life, all of those years ago. And the Time team think it's ever so funny because of what he does in his lifetime. And you call him His Holiness. Okay, it's highlighted. So he's known for instituting the Papal Inquisition, 1227. This is Catholicism just getting started beyond the holy wars with King Richard, permanently parked up in the Jerusalem region, brutalizing the whole place. Okay, that's the whole of Europe are in there. Papal Inquisition, a mechanism that severely punished people accused of heresy for a false religion. Isn't it a tough corner if you're a pagan? In response to the failures of the episcopal inquisitions established during the time of Pope Lucius. Yeah, that's the devil for a laugh in the papacy. Through his papal bull Ad Abolendum, issued in 1184. Okay, 1066 the Frenchies come in, and that is around the time that we have the Bayeux Tapestry, and we sign the Magna Carta, and that is the joke about French Bishop Odo tagging along. Yeah, and all of that occurs in mainstream England, with the French in control, leading the false religion right up through the Anglo-Saxon countries, and some of that is part of the Middle Earth joke, because what you've got is the man who went with Tony Blair's armies as the ambassador yeah, for Britain in the brutalization of Iraq. His name is the same as the local councillor for Jedburgh, Rory Stewart. Okay, so Rory Stewart MP is the MP for Cumbria. He knows all about the Middle Earth stories, the Viking nations, and the partitioning of England by the Norse pagans. He understands entirely that Christianity is a fraud. He understands that blind King George of Cumbria was the legitimate claimant or the sire of Queen Victoria's only legitimate child, because he's the MP for Cumbria, and he gets picked to go and brutalise Iraq, where Armageddon is and where the reeds are, where Moses was born, at the bottom of the, I think it's the Euphrates River in Iraq, and that becomes the location for the naturalist project that is exploring the otter families at the estuaries of those massive biblical rivers. All of it is a joke. Right then, he was created Cardinal Deacon, so this is Pope Gregory IX. He was created Cardinal Deacon of the Church of St. Eustachio by his cousin Innocent III. Yeah, that's his cousin. Yeah, and we hear all about the brother of the High Priest of Israel, the brother and sister who were married together, who become the predecessors for the Baron Cohen dynasty, that are the High Priests of Israel. Yeah, I forget the name of the, I think it's Aaron, that married his own sister so that they could keep their bloodline pure. Okay, so this one's picked by his cousin. In 1260 he was promoted to the rank of Cardinal Bishop of Ostia, where the Roman navy is incompetent. As Cardinal Bishop of Ostia, he cultivated a wide range of acquaintances, among them Queen of England, at that time Isabella of Angoulême, which I presume is French, because he's got one of those grave things like the shallow graves. Gregory was over 80 years old when he was elevated to the papacy in the papal election of 1227. Okay, all of this is reported as if we understand it entirely. Gregory's bull Perons and Santas of 1231, after the University of Paris strike of 1229, resolved differences between the unruly university scholars of Paris and the local authorities. Now, you've seen the movies and the stories I've told you about the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the fraud and the Cockney involvement. Yeah, the cock neigh is the cock crowing joke and the donkey neighing joke, and they're allowed to get away with the whole of the joke about the establishment of religion, with the monarchy looking on, having a sly laugh up their sleeves, like Prince Charles and the Jewish rabbi in London. Yeah, that's the rabbi for the Commonwealth, but we cannot find yet his ID on the business register. His solution was in the manner of a true follower of Innocent III. He issued what in retrospect has been viewed as the Magna Carta of the university, assuming direct control, extending papal patronage. His bull allowed future suspensions of lectures over a flexible range of provocations. This is 1229. Yeah, when we went into World War I, nobody in Britain could read and write unless you were a landowner. They think it's really funny, and you wanted sex without being a landowner, then you had to go to a brothel. Yeah, because your children and your missus or your relatives or your loved ones were taken from you and they were put in the poorhouse, and all of them get shagged by the elites. All of them get used as slaves in the system, and then they get sent to war. And they used to have summer wars in that period to keep the numbers down, and the brothels were the launch of the fuck word, because that's fornication under consent of the king. And the royals, because God's alive and well with a sense of humour, all of them get syphilis. That's the blue bloods. Yeah, and God gets the final laugh at the end of almost all of the stories. And his bull allowed future suspension of lectures over a flexible range of provocations, from monstrous injury or offence. I don't know whether or not burning millions of witches is included in that category, to squabbles over the right to assess the rents of lodgings. Alarmed by the spread of old heresies in Spain and France, as well as the violent mob action against them, in 1233 Gregory IX established the Inquisition to regularise the process of culling people, although he did not approve the use of torture as a tool of investigation or for penance. I don't believe that, which is why these guys hero. This Pope, being a remarkably skillful and learned lawyer, caused to be prepared Nova Compilatio Decretialium, which was promulgated in, and it was first printed at Mainz in 1473. That's the law dad jokes in the Devil's Advocate, and he's the foundation for papal legal theory. In 1234 Decretals, he invested the doctrine of perpetua servitus. Can you guess what that is? Perpetual servitude of the Jews. Okay, this is really funny for the Gentiles who are laughing at their colleagues, the Gentiles, who are already dead in the trenches. Okay, yeah, that's this lot. Already dead in the trenches. And can you see it? So, perpetual servitude of the Jews, imposed by the hero of Blackadder, Gregory IX, with the force of canonical law. According to this, the followers of the Talmud would have to remain in a condition of political servitude until Judgment Day. Can you see why the Holocaust gets sparked so easily? Yeah, the Jews are again the victims of that. all of world history, the stories are told by the winners, and no one is able to know what the truth is. But when Blackadder laughs at it, or when the elites in the university secret services that spark the war and produce the informed and intellectual causes that they use, yeah, you can bet your boots that it's a genocide for their profit. The Jews were thus suppressed from having direct influence over the political process and the life of Christian states into the 19th century with the rise of liberalism. So you can see it, that's right up until 1815 when Britain lost its central bank. Yeah, the Jews did not have a say in any of it, but it was the Rothschilds who took over the British central bank. Yeah, it's ever so funny if you're a historian in the Blackadder team or the Time team. Gregory ordered that all copies of the Jewish Talmud be confiscated following a public disputation between Christians and Jewish theologians. This culminated in a mass burning of some 12,000 handwritten Talmudic manuscripts on June the 12th, 1242 in Paris. Now those will be the PISO numbering jokes. Yeah, I'm going to make that a focus of tomorrow's videos. I'm going to try and educate you on how clever the numbering jokes are, so that every cull since the Arthurian legends were told by the popes in Rome, yeah, and you've got Giotto, dream of Pope Gregory IX with St. Francis of Assisi. Is he the one that got the birds gathering round him and sitting on his hand? Gregory was a supporter of the mendicant orders, which he saw an excellent means for counteracting by voluntary poverty the love of luxury and splendour which was possessing many ecclesiastics. Oh, there's a sacrificial gesture. The meek and the poor get praised. Okay, right then, let's keep going down. Gregory endorsed the Northern Crusades and attempts to conquer Orthodox Russia, particularly the Pskov Republic. Psst, psst, psst. Yeah, the PISO thing is in everything. And the Novgorod Republic. In 1232, Gregory requested the Livonian Brothers of the Sword to send troops to protect Finland. So they're all over Scandinavia already, and the pagan people were fighting against the Novgorod Republic in the Finnish Novgorodian. Yeah, so what they do in the last phases of Christianity are let the pagan nations fight against each other. Really clever, less dangerous, equally profitable. Gregory IX began his pontificate by suspending the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II for dilatoriness in carrying out the promised 6th Crusade. Okay, so they're tied into contracts to brutalise the Holy Land. That's the 6th time. Frederick II appealed to the sovereigns of Europe, complaining of his treatment. The suspension was followed by excommunication and threats of deposition. As deeper rifts appeared, Frederick II went to the Holy Land and in fact managed to take possession of Jerusalem. 6th Crusade, 1221. Prince Archbishop of Salzburg in 1241 at the Council of Regensburg declared that Gregory IX was that man of perdition whom they call Antichrist. Oh, they're falling out again. Who in his extravagant boasting says, I am God, I cannot err. He argued that the Pope was the little horn of Daniel. Okay, yeah, the Daniel bit. Every chapter in the biblical texts is a fraud. Yeah, the little horn of Daniel. Okay, and you've got a bas relief of Gregory IX in the US House of Representatives, because all of them think it's ever so funny. All of them. Yeah, that's Butcher Haig, who wanted his drinks cabinet. Yeah, he's got a glass of whiskey in his hand, closer